that manifested. But had you jumped on with the sadness in full effect, there are as many realities as there are people. It's very interesting to be in a relationship with someone when you realize that there's as many realities as there are people. I have a different reality. My husband has a different reality. Each one of us has a different reality. And so what I say in my reality is always right. And what he says in his reality is very much, we could have been in the same restaurant, the same waitress, the same experience, the same everything, but we experienced two different realities, two different experiences. And when we really understand this, we're living out the same time frame over and over and over again in order to remember how we belong to one another, and in order to organize ourselves to get to a higher elemental form collectively. I'm going to say that another way. If you look at the earth is going to go around the sun no matter what. It's going to rotate no matter what. We're all going to collectively have that experience. There's no free will in that. But the deeper you go into your heart, the deeper you go into the heart of every cell, the more free will you have. So at the same time, you have as much free will as you have no free will. Isn't that extraordinary? You can boost your immune system focusing on positive emotions. Positive emotions increase your brain's ability to make good decisions. Literally, when you're feeling happy, connected, you have more brain mass available. More blood goes to your brain. More regions of your brain open up. I wrote an article called The Angel Lobes, and it's based on the studies of this 1950s Yale doctor that showed that we have regions of our brain that get blood supply when we're repeatedly compassionate. I was trying to figure out why I see angels and not everyone else around me. And it's amazing that you can totally see angels. You can totally see these different, vibrant frequencies when you become more of who you actually are. More regions of your brain become available when you're happier. You get happier by fully understanding moment to moment that everything is free will and not free will, which is kind of cool. Maybe we can go to the next one. So this is similarities between the cross-section of the brain showing the pineal gland and the eye of Ra. There is a pendulum in the middle of your brain, and that pendulum is called the pineal gland, and it informs all of the hypothalamus. It's between the two halves of the brain. What's amazing is women have more access to it than men. And until men get older, then there's an equal balance. If men have connected to their emotions and they've connected. I love this particular image for other reasons as well. When men get emotional, their brain floods. Women's does too, but all emotion, the region, the thinking parts of your brain flood with hormones. They flood with the tears pouring out of your eyes, cortisol, stress, all of that. And the brain is no longer communicating with each other. And there's this verse that I love. I will walk in the valley of death. I will fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff is with me. And part of that becomes your body becomes that place where you can fully, when your emotions kick in, When you're flooded, when children get flooded with emotions, forgive them, for they know not what they do. There's nobody home. There's no one there. They're in the valley of death. They're in that shadow place. And the only way that you can get yourself out of it is you've got the rod with your, and there's so much information with this. There's so many things that we could talk about, but breathing, standing up, standing in that Da Vinci Man pose is one of the ways that you can begin to unflood your brain. That's a whole nother lecture that I love to give. But this is really important to really, if someone starts crying, is emotional, get them to stand up, get them to move their arms out. If they're in fear, get them to stand up, or upright at least. Expand themselves, and it will start cleaning the circuitry of the brain. Maybe we can go to the next one. So everything is sacred geometry in the ancient temples, and everything that works, every building that stays around after an earthquake or after horrible weather has some sort of sacred pattern to it. This in particular is Isis. These are the wings. We know through the work of Dr. Fritz Popp that our hands, our body, everything is emanating light. Through the work of Nassim Haramein now, we're even talking about how we change the field around us. They were showing the toroidal fields around her. It's an extraordinary thing to really get. This is, again, one of your superhuman senses that you have available to you. Some people have a great sense of space around them. Some people are really great healers because they've, from childhood, activated that healing energy, that light coming out. And more collectively, we're able to see it. Maybe we can go to the next one. So again, that field is something that can be seen. There are people in Africa that are still communicating without the cell phones, without telephone, radio, back and forth between each other, sharing, villages sharing. If you want to make a difference on the planet for yourself, I mean, if it's really, really important to really tune into and notice how far your field goes for yourself. And the picture on the lower end is our brain matter, the red one. The violet one is a nebula out in the solar system. What's really extraordinary is we have more brain matter, more brain connections can be made in our brain than there is particulate matter in the universe, which is really, really extraordinary when you really get this for yourself. And it's all constantly regenerating. If you focus on yourself and your own energy, your feet, your legs, that simple process that we did in the beginning, you're going to strengthen your own system. You're going to be able to hear it better, your own sacred geometry. So it creates your heart produces a wave that locks the possibilities into place. We're in this. If you change an atom in the fractal reality hologram, then the whole hologram of reality changes. Go ahead, baby, to the next one. So you have wheels of energy within yourself. These are the chakra systems. And all of these, the root chakra, and that's what we're going to work on, really grounding in. You're going to root yourself to this location. It's going to be rooted through all time from Egypt, through this 5th generation oil. This part helps you understand what is happening for Earth, grounds you to the Earth. Animals that were in the tsunami a few years ago in Thailand, not one animal that was free was lost. They had a sense to go away from the water coming. They knew. they had this sense within them. It's quite extraordinary. You have this sense, this super strength is one of your strengths. We're going to activate that today. And if in your meditations or you smell this smell, it might be the earth communicating with you in the future. And to really pay attention to that signal. So we could spend a whole day on this. We'll go to the next one, maybe. It's written about in ancient symbols. Drawing these symbols, bless you, drawing these symbols is probably one of the ways that you initiate your super skill set within yourself. This is the Kabbalah, the tree of life, the feelings. It's a range. It never is a still, you don't have one particular feeling. It's a range of feelings. And it's really important to understand that for yourself. Maybe go to the next one. How amazing is that? If you could call out a little bit of what you felt, what did you feel from that? What stood out? What stood out for you? Interconnectedness, expansiveness.
As above, so below.
As above, so below. Expansion.
I got a feeling of insignificance, yet all inclusive.
insignificance, and all-inclusiveness. It's amazing. All of that is available to you. The entire universe, everywhere that went. My husband, I think you were 19 or 20 when you went to India, meditating on a tree branch, did that journey, is able to affect the entire field. The Dalai Lama has a weatherman. It's so funny. Like the oracle comes in and says, oh, we need to make some weather, or we need to check with the weatherman. And what that means is they go and make weather. They shift through their consciousness. When you really get who you are, when you really, really get who you are, and when each one of us fully get who we are, what's possible is extraordinary. We were on a mountaintop. I have a 10-year-old son. At 8 years old, we went to the top of a mountain. It was the year before when I went to this mountain. I saw and connected with angels, described it to a friend. The friend described it to another friend, and that friend said, oh my God, Tyler described the same angels to me, our 10-year-old son. And they were at Bhakti Fest, and I drove later, and we shared our experiences. I was on the top in an interfaith ceremony that happens every year, 50 different cultures. It's been happening for over 50 years that get together, probably like 100 different cultures at Mount Baldy. Anyway, Tyler came with me the next year, and it was a gorgeous day. And then after we did the ceremonies and the prayers, the Native Americans said, oh, let's do rain. And we couldn't get off the mountain that second year. And it was the greatest joy for him to make rain and then do the little hula things. He was huluing in the rain, which was just fun to try and keep the little hulu spinner up.
I used to live in Thailand for a long time, and every year, I think it was the 15th of April, not sure about the date, they have something called the Water Festival. And on this day, they have an event where the head monk goes into this huge outdoor auditorium, and he prays, and a few minutes later it rains. And it's been a drought all that time, the whole season, and it always starts on that day. And it's the reminding
Yes.
the country that the monks are really in charge.
It's so beautiful. I love that. Everything that you want to happen for you, you have total control of it. All the way out, all the way in. But it's the subtle energy, the subtle matter, the subtle conversations. Maybe next one. Before we go, today it's thought the flower of life has provided what is considered to be deep spiritual meaning and forms of enlightenment to those who have studied it as sacred geometry. The reason that I bring this up is you've got to draw it. No one else can draw it for you. No one else can do the art, the movement. To really get the power of sacred geometry, you've got to start drawing the flower of life, or sacred geometry, or the art, or symbols. You have to take an idea from your mind, put it on paper, create those symbols, and it will begin initiating parts of your brain. Go ahead, baby. So, seed of life, egg of life, tree of life, Metatron's cube, flower of life, and fruit of life. These are the images to start with, to start drawing. The egg of life is what was actually you at some point when your parents united and started developing, and you started developing into a baby. You went through every one of these stages, and your DNA is the stage. If you've got an illness of some sort and you begin to draw this, and you feel well, you feel healthy as you're drawing it, you begin to change the structure within your body by becoming the source of that wellness. Go ahead, baby, to the next one. This is where in Egypt, they're right along, this looks like Stonehenge as well. They built a temple around this, and we went in, and we go every year and do ceremony right around this temple. A lot of people don't have access to seeing the flower of life on the wall right there, and it's really extraordinary to have your own eyes look at this. Baby, go ahead. And I invite you to go in and participate in this ceremony. We've got some of the stuff here that you'll have access to afterwards if you want. But we're going to show you a little video of something that we did there, and to fully participate in it and what happened at this temple. Go ahead.
I might need the microphone.
Okay, and symbol, this flower of life, perfectly drawn in this area. The most respected of respected knows that he or she is standing on the shoulders of what came before, and finding this amazing temple, respected the area, cleared it, allowed it to come back to life, and built its life around what was already present, what was already created and revered for years and years. And so in our own lives, we have so many things that have been created that we get to stand on the shoulders of. We get to live the way that we're living based on very much like a backbone. The bone below it supports all of the bones to the top. And you are the best of everything that you're standing on right now. And this is to give gratitude to all that was built before us in every shape, form, however it showed up, and for being a part of the experience of this ongoing flower. We are the blossoms of everything that came before us. We are the flower of life living. And so, as we can embrace all those that support us, all the parts that are backbone, even if they might be a little crooked or slip disky, if we can just hold the space to appreciate them right here, right now, and all of humanity that came before us, and all the guides, and all the spirits, and everything that existed in order for us to have the experiences we're having right here. So we'll do some sacred sounds. What is your favorite sound?
Oh.
Your favorite sound is Om. Greg, what's your favorite sound? We'll do Om Ki, because we're standing on the backbones of these two men at this moment. So we'll add their energy, their living vibration. And at the end, if you have a favorite sound, mine happens to be yay. We'll do 3 Om Ki yays, or Om Ki whatever your sound is. So it will be a very harmonious sound, and we'll elongate each one of them. Awesome. And so it is. It is our Father's temple.
So this is, oh, I.
Here you go, my love.
Yeah, thank you, sweetheart.
So this is the Assyrian temple. Oops, the one before it, with the picture. So this is the Assyrian temple. It is built, Seti II was building his temple. And this particular location, when they started building it, they found an ancient temple beneath it. And there is such a great reverence for temples that they stopped the direction that they were building in and honored the direction that this was in. And many people go into this temple and they have their own experiences of the Akashic records and the awakening. And one of my favorite stories about when I talk about and teach about reincarnation and about remembering all of that, there's a woman named Om Seti. And Om Seti was born in London in like early 20th century, and she knew she had to get to Egypt. She knew she had to get to this temple, and she basically hitchhiked her way to Egypt from England, got there, and as a young woman started telling the guards where the entrance to Seti's temple was, where all of the particular things were. They thought this young girl was crazy, but they started listening to her, and they found all of the entrances, all of the places, much of which had been buried for a very long time. It would have taken a very long time to find all of it without her. There's a great story written about her. This is thought to be the last place Osiris. There's great mythology in Egypt, and this was thought to be where they found a piece of him. And this is part of one of 14 places on earth where the flower of life shows up in this manner. It's they used to think it was like it was beyond lasers. They're still not sure exactly what it is that put the flower of life there, but it's so precisely made, perfectly made. We couldn't do it with lasers that we have today. Maybe go ahead to we start our journey at the Sphinx. The morning that we wake up in Egypt, the first day there, we go down to the paw of the Sphinx. And on our last journey, the first day that we were there, it started raining, drizzling rain. And our guides are like, wow, it's a holiday. It rains maybe once, maybe twice, best 3 times a year. And on that trip, Martha was with us on that trip, it rained like 6 or 7 times. We would do these ceremonies in these sacred temples, and we would go in bright, sunshiny, and then it'd be drizzling. And quite an extraordinary journey. We were really looking for the next level of consciousness that wants to learn, wants to participate, wants to co-create for our world what's possible. We have a few spaces left. This year we have a woman that co-created yoga mats, and so she, in her consciousness, created doing yoga and taking communion, and they read scripture and then they move their body according to that scripture. Her name's Jenna Davis, and she's coming with us. We've got just such extraordinary consciousness coming with us. And this is also an invite. If you're feeling called, you want to do the planetary work, we want you to come with us. Maybe to the next one. This is Martha's right there with right next to our Egyptologist as well. It was so extraordinary to experience this. We did ceremony around, I always say Serbia, but it's not Serbia.
Syria.
Syria. We did for Syria, and a necklace, we prayed in it, people of Egypt prayed in it, and it's now buried filled with prayers for peace. This is when we fully realize that we're one, and each of us are out there. You are out there, I am out here. helping co-create a world that allows all of us to ascend to the next level of organized, loving self. I mean, imagine your best day that you've ever lived multiplied by 7 billion people. That's what we're looking at when enough of us wake up to ourselves and organize to that next level. It's like a symphony. Baby, go ahead. Not many can see you. They can see only who they think you are based on their past experiences and willingness to expand. I want you to place your hand on your heart, and I want you to give yourself permission to never be offended again. And I want you to hear this again with yourself. Not many can see you. They can see only who they think you are based on their past experiences and willingness to expand. Breathe that in fully. Sacred geometry teaches us how to see interdimensionally. It expands what is possible for us. Your willingness to see yourself. How willing are you to see yourself? How willing are you to see yourself as someone with so many skill sets that you haven't even tapped into yet? The best is yet to come. How willing are you for that? Maybe go ahead to the next. So the old heliocentric model of our solar system. Planets rotating around the sun. It's not only boring, but also incorrect. Our solar system moves through space at 70,000 kilometers per hour. Now picture this instead. So your DNA is doing exactly the same thing. The air in your lungs are moving, the blood, all of that. The sun is like a comet dragging the planets in its wake. Can you say vortex? You have something very particular that you're here to do. When you really become all of you for that, you move at 70,000 kilometers per hour. Why is this important? Because rotational motion and vortex motion are two completely different things. Life spirals. Life is vortex, not just rotation. Life is vortex, not just rotation. The solar system is part of life. Think about that while racing through space. I want to give credit to the DJ that does this, djsadu.com. What's really important about really understanding this is there's something that drives you, really truly drives you. And whether that's a little something like pink strappy shoes, or it's a big something like everyone remembering how we belong to each other. The more you identify and let yourself notice what you actually want, the more subtle energy comes into that 70,000 kilometers per hour around you. You create a vortex around it. I'll say that another way. Most of us have been taught not to actually share what we want or give ourselves permission to want what we want. In some shape or form, we've been taught to want an education, to have a particular shape, to get a degree. That's me. My parents wanted us to be very educated, so that was being born in Pakistan, being born a woman. My mom wanted to make sure her daughters got an education. She really wanted that for us. She really wanted to make sure we were safe. Education was her way of making sure we were safe. I want you to make sure you know what you want. I didn't know I wanted kids and a husband because I'd forgotten that part of myself in my brokenness. I was out there serving. I was in the third world. I loved that experience. I loved being in places where other doctors weren't and couldn't be. I loved being able to deliver babies. When I met my husband, I got depressed because God told me to get married. And I'm like, oh, but I was going to be the Mother Teresa of medicine. And I didn't even like myself back then. So I was like, why does he like me? It didn't make sense. Over 7 years, and then I fell in love with him. He's so cute, isn't he? But much through that healing, I'd forgotten that I wanted to be married with children at one point. I was protecting myself by saying I didn't want it because I didn't think anyone would want me. And it's so interesting, when I gave myself permission to want, the things that I wanted showed up. That vortex energy, 70 kilometers, 70,000 kilometers. It's a magnet, it's an energy, it's a force. It's wonderful for it to come into your field. Go ahead to the next one, maybe. Oh, this is, again, more stones. Each of these stones is taller than my husband. And to me, he's tall. My mom sends me shower shoes, like high heels for the shower. I'm like, Mom. Maybe next one. This is the Phi and the Fibonacci sequence. Everything is held in balance, in ratio. Even the pyramids to the size of the earth, to the size of the moon, every celestial thing follows the same ratio. You might not ever have to measure your feet again. From here to here is the size of, if it's an actual size shoe, it fits from your wrist to your elbow. Pants folded in half fit right around your neck. Your waist is the same size as your neck. You add the tip of your pinky to this region, it equals the bone beyond it. That's what we saw in Jonathan Quinton's video. You are sacred geometry walking around. Every part of you is a temple. Every organ falls into this ratio as well. Your blood is the same consistency, mineral-wise, ratio-wise, to the ocean. Maybe go to the next one.
Excuse me, so what you're saying is that we live in an intelligent universe, it's not static. It's intelligence. Where that intelligence actually comes from, source, we can debate that, but from what you're saying is there's an intelligence, right?
There is an intelligence, and that intelligence expands every time you do. My intelligence expands every time you expand. What becomes available for all of us, that intelligence, those possibilities, those beliefs, something is heating up inside the Egyptian ancient pyramids. So this is the largest pyramid in the pyramids of Giza. It's extraordinary. There's more space. 90% of Egypt still isn't uncovered. There's so many regions. Much of the earth is opening up. Much of the pyramids are opening up. We know now that there is scalar wave energy happening, and that's a whole nother lecture as well, the scalar wave and those, but it literally changes your DNA, changes your biology. Maybe go to the next one. This is where psychic development used to happen. There is a wall here that still aligns you to the North Star. We do, in our group, we do the practices, we do the exercises that they did in the ancient mystery schools. We run this, go ahead to the next one maybe, and we go in, and these are sound chambers. All of the regions, everything is a sound. All of, even within we sing songs when we go into the pyramids. We realign ourselves and our bodies in all of that space. They knew, all of the artisans, multiple generationally, we could not recreate this with all of our technology today, what they created then. Go ahead, baby. So our next trip is December 26th to January 9th. We go into some of the most amazing places. It's like going to Disneyland, but instead of the Disneyland crowd, we get to do it by ourselves. We get to do it with the permission of people there, with multiple guides. We have a Coptic Egyptian that goes with us. We have, we stand in the synagogue. On one of the journeys, we stood where Moses delivered the 10 Commandments. We were in the church where Mother Mary, built around where Mother Mary hid. We go into these, next picture, baby. Ooh, the King's Chamber, the Pause of the Great Sphinx. We have our own chef on a yacht that goes with us as well. So very much caters to us so that we're able to do the spiritual work for ourselves, for each other, and for our planet. Go ahead to the next one, baby. The Temple of Isis, the Temple of Horus, Luxor Temple, Kamambo, the Temple of Hathor, Karnak, and we're going to show you some pictures of that. Just one temple, and you'll see how it lays out the chakra system. This is Luxor, and in the next picture you'll see, but we enter through the feet. And the masses used to be lucky if they got to see that part of the temple. And the higher you went into the order or in society or in your learning and teaching, the deeper you got to go into the temple. And this was from an aerial graph, and then they lined it up to show that it is precisely designed to the body. And what happens in each of those areas is realignment of your body. Baby, go ahead to the next picture. If you look here, that's the base of the feet. Maybe if you'll point. Whoops. So that's the feet, and if you'll go back one picture slide, that's the base of the feet. Go back to the picture, and then we walk in, and this is where we go in and we realign and feel and reset all. And again, this is just one temple. This is the largest temple complex in the world. And our tour guide, one of them, used to live here. He was born inside the temple. And the temple, the government moved the families out and moved them out of the temple, dug out the temple, restored the temples and the areas. But he's got great stories of what happened in each of these regions. You go all the way to the top, and that's where the head is, the pineal gland. The year that we went into a chamber last year, into a chamber that no one else had gone into. And it was a part of the lung that we initiated and activated. And our tour guide has pictures of me on fire in this temple.